Joining us now from CBS Sports, it's Garrett Podell. Good morning, Garrett. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Garrett.
Morning, guys. Thank you so much for having me on.
Garrett, I'm curious your thoughts on the NFL collusion but not collusion story from this week. How big of a deal do you think that is? How much or what should we care about in that story?
I think it's a major deal. I mean, if you're trying to get paid in any market, right? You're trying to seek, the highest amount of salary you can to provide for your family. And if you find out, other entities, companies in your industry are conspiring to suppress wages, I mean, that would, get me or you or anyone else into a fit of rage. So I think it's a massive deal. And it was very clear, I think, to me at least, that something was off when Lamar Jackson was franchise tagged by the Ravens, but in a way that another team could have offered him and signed him, and they would have needed to give up 2 first-round picks. But this was an NFL MVP dude who was available, and the Atlanta Falcons, I'll never forget this. I mean, they had just drafted Desmond Ridder. Okay, Desmond Ridder, who you guys saw in Vegas this past season and weren't impressed. And the Falcons immediately put out a statement and said, look, we got Desmond Ridder. We're good on Lamar Jackson. In what world is a team that has Desmond Ridder good on Lamar Jackson? I think it's just, it doesn't get more blatant than that.
I mean, the Raiders didn't put out a statement, but they kind of said, we got Aiden O'Connell. We're good. We don't need Lamar Jackson either. No problems here. So I guess it's an off season and there's not a whole lot going on, but I feel like it hasn't gotten that much attention. Do you think that's because the ultimate arbiter or arbitration in this said that no punishment for the NFL? They might probably colluded, but there's nothing to do here, nothing to see.
Yeah, I think if we were talking about major punishments and things like that, I mean, Spygate became as big of a deal as it did because why? There was the lost first-round picks, major fines, Bountygate, Sean Payton gets suspended for a year. I mean, those are very obvious punishments. And, this is a story that if you're not like a diehard NFL fan, I mean, you kind of got to read between the fine print and comb through summaries of the lawsuits, which we have on CBSSports.com. We have a former agent, Joel Corey, who's done a great breakdown of why this matters from the perspective of a former NFL agent. So we've covered it over here. But, yeah, I think this is a story that unless you're really dialed into the NFL, this might slip past you on your radar. But this is a big deal for sure that there was collusion, and the NFL has kind of at times veered towards we're going to get guaranteed contracts for quarterbacks, right? Kirk Cousins with the Minnesota Vikings, he got fully guaranteed deals. The Deshaun Watson $230 million fully guaranteed deal, I mean, that came about because he wasn't really interested in getting traded to the Cleveland Browns. He was looking at the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, and they came in and said, well, if we give you this, will you come and sign this? And he's like, obviously, yes. So, and Lamar Jackson certainly had a case for getting it. So you see that, and you find the text, which they have of Dean Spanos, the Chargers owner, replying and saying, your deal helps us for our QB next year, in corresponds to the Arizona Cardinals owner and Kyler Murray's deal that wasn't fully guaranteed. I mean, that's pretty glaring.
Should anyone believe Aaron Rodgers?
In what capacity? We talking football or life?
Exactly. That's a great point.
Well, you got to narrow that down a little bit.
Yeah. This is his last year.
I think you got to take that with a grain of salt. I mean, look, he sat behind Brett Favre for 3 years, and Brett Favre was famous for officially retiring, officially unretiring. I think Aaron has been very conscientious of not doing that. Pretty sure certainly gives him an out if he plays really well in 2025, thrown to DK Metcalf, who Rodgers said was a big draw for why he came to Pittsburgh. Maybe he suits it up for another year, but we do have him obviously on video on the Pat McAfee show this week saying, I'm pretty sure this is my last year. I think it'll all just kind of depend how the season goes. He closed 2024 really well down the stretch of the season, 18 touchdowns to 4 or 5 interceptions. And he actually did really well throwing under pressure, which for someone who's kind of lost some mobility after the Achilles tear in 2023, he actually had 8 touchdowns and no picks while being pressured last season, which was the best in the NFL, one of the best TDI&T ratios against pressure in the league in about 6-7 years. So he's clearly shown he's got some ball left in him. I'll just be very interested to see how the season goes, and that's probably how it's going to be. But, you know, Aaron loves being in the limelight. That's very obvious with the weekly Pat McAfee appearances and cryptic retirement decisions the last few years. But I think probably, but you can never rule it out. So I'm taking it with a little bit of grain of salt.
Garrett, if I asked you for a prediction and you gave us a date or sort of a timeline here, when do the Cowboys actually sign Micah Parsons?
Okay, that is a phenomenal question because Micah Parsons, told me after week 18 against Washington, when their season ended, he told me and Todd Archer from ESPN and a couple other reporters standing around talking to him after the game in the hallway outside the Cowboys locker room at AT&T Stadium that he was going to set a meeting with Jerry Jones in January to get the ball rolling because he saw how long it took to get CeeDee Lamb's extension, Dak Prescott's extension done. So they meet at the Cotton Bowl, the college football playoff semifinal, Ohio State, Texas in January in Jerry's box. That conversation apparently goes well. No movement. Fast forward, I talked to Micah and among other reporters just before the day before the NFL draft at a charity event in Frisco, and he says I have all this urgency to get this deal done because I don't want to. He didn't say this, but it was very clear. He was implying I don't want to hold out at training camp. He said I want to be at training camp. So you would think that it would happen right before the start of training camp. So they report to camp July 21st. So if there's going to be like a first real deadline for this to get done, it's like that July 21st date when rookies and vets report to Oxnard, California for training camp. But you never know because Jerry Jones has to call David Mulugeta, Micah's agent, who he jokingly said he didn't know the name of, which isn't true because he has other clients on the Cowboys, and he is one of the most prominent NFL agents in the entire league. If there's a marquee star player, there's like one of like 3 or 4 agents who's negotiating the deal, and Mulugeta is one of those guys. So I would imagine around July 21st, we'll get some more concrete news on it because right now there hasn't been any real movement.
That sounds like a logical timeline, but it's the Cowboys. So is the answer like August 31st?
Well, CeeDee Lamb signed right when they came back home from training camp. It's like, mid-August, late August. And then Dak Prescott re-signed hours before kickoff in week 1. I don't think Jerry wants to wait as long to get Micah done, especially because when I was at mandatory minicamp, I watched Micah Parsons. He's doing the hold in. He wasn't really participating in many of the team drills, no 11 on 11 work. But the second day of mandatory minicamp, he put on his helmet and went through a few position drills. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but most dudes in hold-ins, Trey Hendrickson, T.J. Watt, other edge rushers seeking to get paid this offseason, they participated in none of mandatory minicamps. The fact that Micah threw his helmet on and did that, was a show of leadership to the organization. And I saw the day before, the first day of mandatory minicamp, Jerry pulled Micah to the side during the team drill portion of that first mandatory minicamp practice. And they had a 25, 30-minute conversation. And then when I spoke to Micah after that, he said Jerry let him know that he really appreciated Micah being there and showing leadership, even though the contract is not resolved. So you would think based on the way Micah's really played this in a really amicable way that there would be a resolution around the start of training camp. But like you said with the Cowboys, Jerry Jones, you never really know.
Well, he is Garrett Podell from CBS Sports. Garrett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
We
Garrett.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Would be fun to talk again soon.
Take care.
So there is Garrett Podell.